So this is what we're all about, preserving our lovely chalk stream that runs through the village. So for those that don't know about the river, I guess, do people know about it, or do you want to say a few words about the river?
Go on, tell us.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a chalk stream, which is a rare habitat type in the UK. The UK has got the vast majority of the world's chalk streams. It's a bit like we have chalk streams, the Amazon has the rainforest. It's sort of similar sort of thing.
A bit smaller.
So the Shep itself starts off in the Fowlmere, RSPB Fowlmere Nature Reserve. Starts there from natural underground springs, the aquifers that you hear people talk about. And it flows. You can walk along the Shep in Fowlmere. Flows then across to the motel on the A10. And you can then walk along the path from that motel to the church at Shepworth. So that's called the Manor Farm stretch. Then flows through the village, along the high street, goes behind a few houses, through the mill. So if you go over that little bridge in Shepworth, that's the Shep flowing under there. Then goes down Angle Lane to the railway, crosses the railway, takes a long straight cut towards Barrington, and then flows into the River Ree or the River Cam at the bottom of Boot Lane in Barrington. So that's the extent of the river.
So what's the length of that? 4 or 5 miles?
2.5
bit more.
miles.
Huh?
2.5 miles.
Oh,
So there are various footpaths. There are some bits you can't access where it goes behind people's private properties, but mostly you can walk large stretches of it. And this map, there's copies of this map on the table on the stall. And we've been going for 25 years now, so that's quite an achievement. So this is how it started. So in the late 90s, the river was in a terrible state, and there was sort of general dismay by the villagers around the state of the river. And again, at that time, Rob, who's kind of really interested in the river and grew up in the village and used to fish the river when he was a child, he started working with the warden, Doug Radford, at RSPB Fowlmere and started improving that stretch. And from that, sort of grew more interest. There was a village meeting. Everybody said, "Oh God, this is terrible. We have to do something." And after a couple of false starts, eventually in April 1999, we launched Friends of the River Shep. And dear Liz Kendrick, I don't know if any of you know Liz Kendrick, passed away last year. She was the first chair. And the overarching mission really is just to safeguard the river from all the pressures of modern life, house building, over abstraction of water, all that sort of thing. So 25 years we've been doing this. Our aims are very simple, really just to sustain the river and to protect what we already have. That's the first overarching thing. Let's not do any harm to it, what we already have. To encourage the biodiversity of the flora and fauna. So you can see here, we're very lucky now to have water voles in the river. You can see those quite regularly, particularly in the spring. Occasionally get kingfishers visiting, that sort of thing. And then thirdly, really to promote the preservation and the improvement of the river. And you're going to hear from Rob in a minute and Darren about lots of projects we've done and a big project we're about to start to improve a particular stretch of the river next year, or this year now. So those are our overarching goals. So in terms of achievements, I'm speaking generally now over that quarter century, we're always organising and undertaking maintenance days. So these usually will take place on a Saturday morning, usually between about 9 and 12, organised by Rob generally, advertised through our newsletters and on Facebook. And we're always looking for new volunteers to come. You don't have to be particularly fit, you can just come and bring coffee if you want to help the volunteers, or you can get in your full waders and be in the river and hacking down trees and all sorts. So there's a whole range of activities people can get involved in if they'd like to. We also work hard to get funding to enable our work. We do have a small income from our membership, but if we're going to do anything significant, we need bigger chunks of money. And we've just been successful in getting over £6,000 out of Cambridge Water, which is going to fund our project for this spring and summer. And you'll hear more about that in a moment. We also influence South Cambs District Council maintenance team to help with the river as well. We don't have any big equipment, we don't have any big diggers or JCBs or anything, but South Cambs do, and they have a requirement to keep the river flowing, but they don't always quite know what they're doing or when they're doing it at the wrong time. So we guide them as to when to do, what to do, and when to do it, so as not to disturb the trout or the waterfalls, and to use the right machinery at the right time. We also influence the Environment Agency. In times of drought, there is a severe risk that the river may actually dry up, and so we influence the Environment Agency to augment the river with pumped water in times of severe drought. It's a little bit counterintuitive, you know, why should we be adding extra water to a river when we're already in a drought? But that's, as things stand, better than letting the river dry out completely, and then the whole thing, the whole ecosystem would die out. So it's a fine balance. This year, being wet, we haven't had to do that. So
what's the source of the augmentation?
Can we get the questions at the
Oh,
end?
sorry. Okay. Yeah, I just thought the topic.
it's from the aquifers, from the aquifers.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Here, Hayden.
And then, as well as that, we just undertake general low-key maintenance work throughout the year and respond to emergencies. So, say in these storms, a tree comes down, blocks the river. Rob will be out there with his chainsaw the next day, sorting it out.
So, working with the Friends of the Shep, we wanted to find something more and something bigger to do, but also something that we could use as an opportunity to get new volunteers involved. So this is why we come up with the Angle Lane project. It's good to do because it's got direct connection to the River Ree. There's no point trying to conserve species if they're in isolation. Connectivity is really important. We also know we've got really good habitat potential down there. We've still got good water quality. We've got good clean gravel, which provides spawning opportunities for fish like dace, minnows, as well as our brown trout. And a whole range of invertebrates live in the clean gravel that is to be found in Angle Lane. It's also in the heart of our village. So when we start doing work in these areas that are seen by many people, you get interest. You get people who say, can I get involved in that? How do we find out about your work parties? And when you bring those people together, they start talking, they make new friends, you make new connections, you find someone's got exactly the right bit of kit to go forward and do it somewhere else. So that's why we're looking to try and bring ourselves out of these doldrums that we found ourselves in the COVID period, where we became more disconnected from our volunteers, to come up with our little Angle Lane project. So what and where? I've taken forward, because I'm actually professionally involved in these kinds of work as well, I have secured the consent to do the works, and I had to come up with a scheme, and we consulted all of the landowners. The essence of these are, we want to put in more gravel in places, we want to put in flow deflectors, we want to put in woody features. Wood is important in streams. It acts like a reef. It provides lots of surface area for for bacteria, for invertebrates, for small fish to find crevices. So we will be putting woody features in, but we don't want to obstruct the flood flows. We want to enhance those low flows to help the species get through the period of stress when our stream's at its worst. If not many of you from the village, you won't really know Angle Lane. But in essence, we're putting in gravel, we're putting in flow deflectors, we're putting in woody features, and we're rebuilding the banks in some areas so they're strong, and those banks will then offer lots of habitat potential, which is what I'm about to show you in a moment. So, what do I mean when I talked on those, or showed pictures saying we're going to put in brash ledges? This is a brash ledge. It's a bundle of sticks to make a faggot bundle. That bundle of sticks is then positioned in the margins. Those crevices behind the sticks provide lots of areas where small shrimps can live, small fish can tuck themselves away, and then we can backfill, as you see CJ jumping on that ledge. He's treading in lots of debris, stones, mud. That barrier holds back that material, and then it can be planted up. That's you, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Smiling for the camera. We can then plant that up with yellow flag irises, so we get that interface between the dry land down the slope to the wet, soft margins. That's where the water voles want to live. So we want to bring them back cover. That's where the marginal fish will be taking shelter. So it's important. Then I've mentioned flow deflectors. This is up near Church Lane. A lump of wood, put that in the current, it creates flow diversity. You end up with a fast area of water just here, and you end up with calm water here. So immediately you've got differences where certain fish might want to be in the fast flows, others want to be in the calm. Flow deflectors are lumps of wood normally, and notice it's low profile. We're not trying to dam the river up, we're just trying to trip up the flow, as it were, to make mini areas of scour and areas of deposition. We get interest from companies who say, we want to do a green action day, can we help your group? This was MK Ecology, picking up bags of gravel, moving them around and building up the riverbanks to make this area of the river more resilient to people pressure. You can't change where people go, you have to adapt to their habits. So some areas of rivers, we're quite happy for people to go in and explore. We want the children to explore the stream. We want dogs to jump in the rivers in certain areas. So we're rebuilding the riverbanks there. And this is what I'm about. I work for a charity called the Wild Trout Trust, by the way. This, when we put the gravel in, we make riffles. Riffles are shallow, oxygenated areas of the river. And that brown trout, that female, is turning on her side. She's making a nest in that gravel in which she will release her eggs. Those eggs will then sit there once they've been fertilised for maybe 60 to 100 days. Almost a quarter of the year, a third of the year rather, which means they're very vulnerable to either predation, wash out by floods, siltation from muck from road drains, or physical damage by people trampling them. But if those trout eggs can make it all the way through, then they hatch out and they repopulate our river with hundreds of new trout fry. We do not need to stock our river, it's got the potential to reproduce naturally. But then, it's really important to get the community involved. If you don't tell the next generation what you've done or why should they care? Why should they be interested? So once we remake some of our features in Angle Lane, once we make those ledges, we put in some flow deflectors, we put in clean gravel, I want to get the youngsters back involved and get them involved in planting so they have that degree of ownership. And it's another way in which to bring people together.
We've spoken about the funding that we've made for the Pebble Fund application. Rob's talked about the work that we're going to do. We need more money, so if anyone in here isn't a member, it's a very small amount of money. The membership is for your household, so please join us on our table where you can see some water as well from a tank that Rob's collected and join us as a group. Work party volunteers are needed, as we spoke about. Saturday mornings are normally our annual, our regular intervals, but also we've got a big project to do as well, and that will be over a long period of time. And then this year, Steve mentioned, is our 25th year, so we will be having an anniversary celebration, probably in here. Details of that will be later on. We spoke about river work parties. We've got a guided walk in the summer, probably led by myself or Steve or Rob, all three of us. Late summer, we do pond dipping down at Boot Lane, you can see here. Great interaction with the kids, get them in the water, get them rummaging around, catching all sorts of invertebrate and fish. Boxing Day, we've just had our Boxing Day walk. You can see this is our latest one from this year. Very good community spirit, getting everyone to walk the river, point a few things out along the river, and then come back and have your Christmas lunch or Boxing Day lunch. And then we've got annual presentation at the Shepworth
Annual
parish meeting and our AGM, which we have on an annual basis as well. How to keep informed and in touch. For members, we've got regular emails for all our members. There's coming soon, there's a newly relaunched newsletter to all our members. Join the Facebook group. There's a website as well. There's a notice board by the river, which was kindly sponsored by Tom and purchased by Tom at the back there. And then there are some regular monthly snippets in the village newsletter as well. How to become a member, come and see us on the desk in the hall and we'll give you a membership form. Simple as that. Or go on the website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you so much. We've got time for maybe two questions.
Two questions.
And then obviously you can speak to them on the stand as well.
Are there any risks to the River Shep from pollution?
We're fortunate in that we don't have any sewage treatment works on the Shep, but there are some private septic tanks that can discharge. But the Shep, before the Environment Agency re-categorised them, under the Water Framework Directive, it was one of the only good ecological status rivers in the whole of the Cam and Ely Ouse catchment. That's quite an accolade. There's the Hoffer Brook and the Wend and Zambo stream, but now they've got some persistent pollutants, fire retardants and chemicals that wash off the roads that are bringing the classification down. But the River Shep is one of the cleanest rivers in this area.
Is there any impact there from the wildlife park?
No, there's none.
Okay.
No.
There are
They do take some water. They have a licence to abstract water, which goes to their ponds, but that comes back in through their own drains, and I've never seen any pollutant from that, so I'm not concerned. If anything, having the wildlife park needing to have a regular offtake of water justifies the Environment Agency helping to augment our river to keep it flowing. If our river ran dry, Shepworth Wildlife Park would also start to have problems.
One more question?
The trout, I was surprised to see mention of. What sort of size can they get to?
Big enough.
Stream like this.
It's big enough.
Yeah. I'm not joking. I have seen them to 50 centimetres long and possibly bigger. The thing about
This last week.
is that those trout are now returning to spawn in our river for multiple years. They're probably getting beyond 5 or 6 years old, and they're returning as quality fish. And the bigger the female fish can be, the more eggs she can carry, the more power she's got, so the higher upstream she can colonise. So there's potential those large fish could swim up the mill sluice and start getting their progeny right back up to the top of the river. Think of them as like salmon. They want to spawn upstream, they will do their very best to migrate and move upstream. And that's why I talk about connectivity being so important.
Yes, well, I come from Bassingbourne. We've got a couple of chalk streams through there as well, so I'll watch out in terms of what fish,
Yes.
which I only see sort of small ones.
You do get trout in the Wellhead spring system. They used to go through there by Bassingbourne College there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.